a detailed prose form overview of Malaysia's exports to the other 9 ASEAN member states in 2023, including the specific goods and services exported to each partner country. 1. Singapore. Singapore was Malaysia's largest ASEAN export market, with exports totaling approximately $196 billion in 2023. The two nations' deeply integrated supply chains supported high volumes of electronic components, especially integrated circuits, semiconductors, and printed circuit boards, which Singapore often re-exports. Malaysia also sent refined petroleum, chemical products, machinery, and palm oil. Services included financial services, logistics, and telecommunications-related IT services. The volume of food and beverage products and building materials also remains substantial, meeting Singapore's limited domestic production capacity. 2. Thailand. Thailand was Malaysia's second-largest ASEAN export destination. Malaysia exported significant amounts of petroleum products, palm oil, electrical and electronic goods, and chemicals to Thailand. Other exports included machinery, plastics, iron and steel products, and medical devices. Malaysia also supplied Thailand with processed food, halal-certified products, and automotive components, supporting Thailand's own industries. 3. Indonesia. Malaysia's exports to Indonesia were led by refined petroleum products, chemical derivatives, palm oil, and machinery. Malaysia also exported fertilizers, iron and steel, electrical appliances, and pharmaceutical products. Additionally, Indonesia imported Malaysian-made cosmetics, halal food products, and construction materials, particularly in the context of urban and industrial development in Kalimantan and Java. 4. Vietnam. Vietnam received a mix of electronic and electrical products, refined petroleum, and machinery from Malaysia. Chemicals, plastics, iron and steel products, and medical devices also featured prominently. Malaysian processed food, especially palm oil-based products and industrial parts, were crucial to Vietnam's manufacturing and food processing sectors. The growing halal market in Vietnam also made Malaysia a key supplier of food and cosmetic products. Philippines. Malaysia's exports to the Philippines were strong in refined petroleum, palm oil, machinery, chemical products, and automotive components. Electrical products like capacitors and resistors used in the Philippines' semiconductor industry also played a role. Malaysia also exported food products, medicines, and household items, given Malaysia's status as a hub for halal-certified and fast-moving consumer goods. 6. Myanmar. Exports to Myanmar were focused on refined petroleum, fertilizers, chemical products, and palm oil. Malaysia also exported building materials, steel products, consumer goods, and medicines, which were critical to Myanmar's infrastructure development and domestic consumption. There was also trade in packaged foods, telecommunications equipment, and basic machinery. 7. Cambodia. Malaysia exported machinery, electronic goods, and petroleum products to Cambodia, alongside fertilizers, plastics, and processed foods. Malaysian textile chemicals, medical devices, and home appliances also found growing markets, particularly in Phnom Penh and Siem Reap. Additionally, Cambodia imported logistics services, engineering expertise, and halal-certified consumer goods. 8. Brunei. Malaysia exported mostly food products, construction materials, consumer goods, and machinery to Brunei. Despite Brunei's wealth, it relied on imports of refined petroleum and electrical products from Malaysia. Services like Islamic banking, medical tourism, and technical consulting were also increasingly important. The close cultural and religious alignment enhanced trade in halal products and educational services. 9. Laos. Laos imported refined petroleum, machinery, construction materials, and electrical appliances from Malaysia. Exports also included pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, and processed food, supporting Laos's infrastructure and food security needs. Malaysian companies were involved in services such as engineering, plantation management, and telecommunications development, often through bilateral development programs. Here is a overview of Malaysia's imports from the other 9 ASEAN member states in 2023, with specific goods and services identified for each. 1. Singapore. Singapore stood as Malaysia's largest ASEAN import partner in 2023, with total imports valued at around RM143.8 billion. The country exported a diverse array of goods to Malaysia, especially refined petroleum products, semiconductors, integrated circuits, and other electronic components crucial to Malaysia's electrical and electronics sector. Additionally, Singapore supplied chemical products, pharmaceuticals, optical instruments, and financial and business services, often linked to Singapore's position as a regional service and logistics hub. Indonesia. Malaysia's imports from Indonesia were extensive, focusing primarily on natural resources. Key imports included coal, used for Malaysia's energy and industrial sectors, and palm oil derivatives, which are processed and re-exported. Natural gas and petroleum products were also significant. Additionally, Malaysia imported wood products, rubber, textiles, and agricultural produce, such as coffee and spices. The bilateral trade was also marked by imports of labor services, particularly in the domestic and plantation sectors. Thailand. Malaysia imported a wide range of goods from Thailand in 2023, particularly in the automotive sector, including cars, motorcycle parts, and automotive components, given Thailand's role as a regional manufacturing hub. Other key imports included machinery, plastics, chemicals, rubber products, processed food items, and rice. Thailand also provided Malaysia with iron and steel products and consumer goods, such as cosmetics and toiletries. 4. Vietnam. From Vietnam, Malaysia imported a considerable volume of electronic components, telecommunications equipment, and electrical machinery, reflecting Vietnam's growing prominence in global electronics manufacturing. Malaysia also sourced textiles, footwear, rubber goods, and agricultural commodities, such as coffee, pepper, and fish products. Furniture, often manufactured from acacia and rubber wood, was another important import item. 5. Philippines. Malaysia's imports from the Philippines included copper cathodes, electronic components, and machinery. The Philippines also supplied Malaysia with coconuts, pineapples, and other agricultural products, along with fertilizers and processed food items. The import portfolio also covered chemical products, plastics, and textiles, reflecting the Philippines' mixed export base of raw and intermediate goods. 6. Myanmar. Myanmar's exports to Malaysia were primarily raw materials and primary commodities, including beans and pulses, rice, rubber, and timber. Malaysia also imported fishery products, particularly prawns and crab, and jade and gemstones in smaller volumes. As with Indonesia, Myanmar was also a source of labor services, especially in the construction and manufacturing sectors. 7. Cambodia. Cambodia exported mostly textiles, garments, and footwear to Malaysia, supporting the fashion and retail industries. There were also imports of agricultural goods, including cassava, corn, and pepper, as well as smaller volumes of handicrafts and furniture. Trade was relatively modest in volume, but was growing steadily. 8. Brunei. Malaysia imported mainly crude oil and liquefied natural gas, LNG, from Brunei, given the country's hydrocarbons-based economy. These imports were crucial for Malaysia's energy security and refining industry. Brunei also exported petrochemical derivatives, often destined for Malaysia's industrial and processing zones. 9. Laos. Although smaller in trade volume, Malaysia's imports from Laos included agricultural commodities, such as coffee, cassava, and maize. Laos also exported timber products, especially from its hardwood forests. Some hydropower-based electricity also featured in bilateral trade agreements, albeit on a small scale.
don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support.